So today I'm reviewing The Fighter. This is the new film by David O. Russell, basically following the story of the boxer Irish Mickey Ward, played by Mark Wahlberg, as he tries to basically become a better boxer, wants a shot at the heavyweight title, and is mentored by his older brother Dickie, played by Christian Bale. Now, this is a film that, going in, I was expecting it to be kind of a generic by-the-numbers boxing movie with good performances in it, and was actually pleasantly surprised. So let's take a look at The Fighter. So straight away, what struck me about this film was David O. Russell's direction. Now, this is the guy who did, like, I Heart Huckabees and Three Kings. Three Kings is a movie I really like. As soon as you go into The Fighter, you can see that it's kind of gritty, handheld camera work. It's got a very down-to-earth approach to it. But then there's also flourishes of style now and again that I thought really kind of added to the kinetic sense of the story, especially right at the beginning when you have Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale cleaning the streets, and then the camera kind of like just flies away from them, and then the soundtrack kicks in. That's another really good thing with the film, is it has a brilliant soundtrack, and it's kind of got that stylish flourish to it, which really makes the film feel kinetic as well as down to earth and gritty. So straight away I was in, you know, I was completely buying it. I thought, actually, yeah, this is going to be good. This is going to be something slightly different to what I've seen before in these types of movies. So, like I say, straight away it hooked me in. Now, most people, when they're talking about this film, talk about Christian Bale's performance. Now, I do want to mention that, although I don't want to dwell on it because everybody talks about his performance, but let me just say that this is, without a doubt, one of the best performances of his career. Now, I still feel that his best performance is as Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. That is a career-defining performance. But this, Christian Bale in this, playing Dickie, Mickey's older brother, who is kind of a failed boxer, now a crack addict, having a documentary made about him by HBO. He tells everyone that this documentary is about his comeback at boxing, but it's actually about what it's like to live on crack. Now, he really brings a kind of almost a furiosity to his performance. Christian Bale is the showy kind of showstopper performance that everybody's going to be talking about when they leave the film. He physically has changed. He's slimmed down, although he is muscular because he's playing an ex-boxer. He has kind of a gaunt face, hollowed out eyes because of the crack addiction. He's given himself a bald patch. He really physically inhabits the role to a T, and also when he's just playing the character, the Boston accent is more believable than some real Boston accents that you hear in films, and he really adopts this character and becomes this character. It really is a transformation that has to be seen to be believed. So Christian Bale definitely should get the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, because it is the most kind of committed, just mind-blowing performance of the year, definitely. So he deserves the Oscar. Now, what really makes his performance stand out is the fact that it's opposite Mark Wahlberg, who's playing the more kind of subdued, passive character. Now, I've heard people complain about this. I've heard people complain that Mark Wahlberg is almost barely present emotionally in the film, but I didn't get that at all. I think Mark Wahlberg really brings a very keen sense of like vulnerability to his role as Mickey, and he is, in a sense, that's the only way he could have played the character, because he's overrun by his family, which include like 7 sisters. He's overshadowed by his brother Dickie, especially with this documentary crew filming Dickie. He really is kind of overshadowed and passive, and Mark Wahlberg really manages to bring that kind of human edge to it, and I was impressed by his performance. But it's when you have the two, you have Mark Wahlberg doing the whole subtle, underperforming kind of role, and then Christian Bale bringing all the kind of show-stopping moves to the role. When you put these two together, the chemistry is brilliant, and it makes both of their performances stand out, the way they play off each other. So both Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale are fantastic. As for the kind of support around them, you have Melissa Leo, Darrow playing Mickey and Dickie's overbearing mother, and she brings a real kind of hard edge to the character. She's not incredibly likeable. She is very overbearing and quite aggressive, although there are moments where she brings, again, this kind of, like what Mark Wahlberg does, brings this human vulnerability and emotion to the role that just kind of blew me away. There is one scene where she sat singing with Christian Bale in a car, and I won't go into the context, but that scene I thought was really kind of emotional between the two of them, and I think it captures that kind of awkward relationship between the mother and son, and I really liked that. It's one of my favourite scenes in the film, if not my favourite scene in the film. And then you've got also Amy Adams playing Mark Wahlberg's love interest, doing the whole kind of hard-nosed Boston girl, you know, and she pulls it off really well, and she manages to add layers to a character which could have been kind of like a Lady Macbeth kind of character, but she manages to make you buy into their relationship with Mark Wahlberg, and that really goes for the rest of the supporting characters in the film and the actors. They all manage to bring this realistic human edge to this film and make it all the better for it. For me, what really elevates this film above the kind of standard generic boxing biopic underdog story is the fact that you've got David O. Russell directing it. Darren Aronofsky was originally supposed to do this, and I think he stayed on as executive producer, so you do have some of his fingerprints on it, but it's very much David O. Russell's movie, and because he's come from like an indie background, he really manages to establish his kind of idiosyncratic sense of humour, you know, that he applied to his indie films into this, and there are laugh out loud moments in it. This is an inherently funny film. There are really genuinely funny moments. Some of the dialogue's funny. A lot of what Christian Bale does is really funny, and I don't think it's getting enough credit for that sense of humour that David O. Russell brings to it, but for me that's what elevates it above the rest of the millions of biopics that we've seen about boxing, and really makes it stand out from the crowd, and that's why I feel it is probably my favourite boxing film since Rocky. I think it's the one that I've watched since Rocky that I've enjoyed as much as Rocky, and it really is down to not only David O. Russell's direction and the sense of humour it brings to it, but all the brilliant performances, the brilliant script, and the kind of the fight scenes themselves are very realistic, filmed like they were on HBO in the mid-90s, all that kind of fuzzy television cameras and stuff. It's really well done. It's a very good film. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it more than likely is going to be on my top 10 of 2010, because obviously it was released domestically in 2010. So The Fighter is a fantastic film, and I wouldn't just recommend it to fans of like biopics or sports movies, because it's so much more than that. It really does kind of transcend its genre in a way through the people who've made it. So I thoroughly recommend it to just fans of film in general. I don't think you'll go wrong with The Fighter. If I had to give it a rating, I'd say 4 stars. I really enjoyed it and thoroughly recommend it.